And next up on the Big 12 Insiders Fall Camp Report is Cincinnati and one of my favorite publishers of the new 12, Chad Brendel. Chad, you just told me you have something no other Power 4 institution not only has, but would ever dream of: full access. Huh?
Full access. So Cincinnati actually goes away to camp. It's about 45 minutes outside of downtown. There's this, it's a like a religious retreat place that I guess when it started, the band used to go to. And the band director talked to the football coach. They started going out there. It's called Camp Higher Ground. It's in the woods of Eastern Indiana. And they have built, there's a full football field. There's a half football field. There's dorms. There's a giant dining hall. And we get full access. We are allowed at every practice, every minute of every practice, every day. I think the first practice they had when they went out there was closed to the media. But they've had 12. We've been to 11 of them start to finish. So I've seen 11 fall camp practices from beginning to end. And then afterwards we get, whatever players we want to interview, you can mill around. And the best part, Tim, this place has awesome food. And we get to go have lunch with the team after practice every day.
This is amazing. This is incredible. This better be the best fall camp report ever in the history of the internet. Because
we go full camp report every day. I've got my beat writer Keegan Nickerson. We alternate days so you don't get kind of that fatigue of writing the same thing over and over. He does one day, I do the next day. But yeah, we get full access. It's incredible. It's unlike anything. You have the same reaction that everyone I tell that is a publisher what we get, and they're like, "What do you mean? That doesn't even make sense." But it's always been like that.
I look, as someone who covered Bill Snyder for a lot of years, I'm settling for the fresh cookie I get with like 2 open sessions of 30 minutes or 20 minutes in the fall, and plenty of press conferences. We get that. But that's unbelievable.
Today we had Monterey Ranch chicken sandwiches. They make a homemade bacon ranch dressing that you put on top, Monterey Jack cheese, and then we had steak fries, and they had some broccoli and cheese with rice. It's the full deal. It's great. We love it.
I got to say this: nobody else that's doing fall camp reports in the Big 12 is giving food updates from camp. But I'm getting that from Cincinnati. So let's start here. After that food update that made me hungry since I didn't eat lunch, where is this team at this point of fall camp?
They're better than last year. I'm confident in that. There's a lot more speed. There's a lot more athleticism. If I have a concern, it's that they were small, slow, and unathletic last year. This year, they're athletic and they're fast. I worry still about building up, that size, that overall required size across the board in the Big 12, because I think that takes development. That takes recruiting and time. I think, they did as good a job as possible adding to that and getting better in that respect. But I think last year they had 2 guys that tracked over 22 miles an hour on their, the chess systems that they've got. This year they had 12. They had 37 guys track over 21. They always make an appearance. And last year they had 10.
I hope my dogs don't hear this barking. And she did. She just looked at me in the studio. We might have something. Okay, let's go with this. What is the most important or the strongest aspect with this Bearcat offense?
I think it's going to be offensive line. Now, I mentioned size. They do have a lot of size there. I mean, Luke Kandra is 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 330 pounds. They've got good size at tackle. They've got a lot of experience between both guards and the center. They're talking about winning the Joe Moore Award. I mean, that's how good they believe that they are along this offensive line. So that's going to be the strength of the team. They've got to get better in pass protection. A year ago, they were very good running the ball. You know, they were top 6. I think they were 6 in the country in run offense, but the passing game was dreadful. And some of that was the offensive line wasn't good enough on the edges and keeping the pass rush off of the quarterback. They're going to have to make some improvements there, but they've been better in camp. They knew throughout the offseason, this is where we have to get better, unquestioned. So, you know, that's going to be the strength of this team. If they will go offensively as far as the offensive line takes them.
Okay. I think you touched on it, but give me the biggest concern on that offensive side of the ball.
Depth at wide receiver is still, we feel like when you look at the transfers that have come in, they have upgraded significantly at wide receiver, but really Xavier Henderson, their number 1 guy that transferred in last year from Florida, is the only guy with experience. They've got 2 guys on the field wide receiver spot, Tony Johnson and Jamoy Mays that transferred in that they like. And then they've got Aaron Turner that saw some action last year, but it was limited. He's back along with a guy named Tyron Smith, who I think gives them a spark on the inside, but we haven't seen it live. So that's going to be, I think, the biggest question. And then obviously they've got a new quarterback. School bus is driving by. He thinks that my daughter is about to come home, and she's a volleyball practice. I haven't told him yet that we've got.
Someone's got to be in charge of this.
But you know, Brendan Sorsby is going to have to get the job done at quarterback. I think he's going to be a significant upgrade over what we saw from Emory Jones a season ago. But again, it's an old Marvin Lewis who coached for the Bengals, you know, for 2 decades with mild success. One of his favorite sayings was, "I see better than I hear," and I want to see it. I want to see on a Saturday this offense be able to move the ball via the air. If they can, I think this is going to be a pretty good offense.
Valid. That's a great point. Okay, let's flip it over to that defense. What is the strength of the Bearcat defense?
I think it's going to be linebacker. They've got a couple returning guys. They went and found what they think is a surefire NFL linebacker. His name's Jake Golday. He was at Central Arkansas and kind of slipped through the cracks during COVID and came in there as a defensive lineman. And last year they switched him to linebacker. And I know Cincinnati's, you know, talent acquisition department saw his linebacker tape and went, "Who the hell is this guy?" And it was one of those things, like, even when he committed, because of how much tampering and everything else that goes on, was one of those, like, don't tell anybody, kid. Like, just show up in January. Don't put it on Twitter. Don't put it on Instagram. Show up in January and we'll be good to go. He has been, I mean, he's one of the guys at linebacker that's running over 22 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's like 6. He's, just to give you an accurate idea, 6'4", 235 and runs 22 miles an hour. He is a freak. I had one of the guys tell me, because we get full access, I was talking to somebody after practice yesterday, and they told me he jumped out of the pool.
No, that's not right.
Said he jumped out of the pool, landed on one leg, balanced, and then like dove back into the pool because the guy dared him. He's like, "You can't jump out of the pool." He's like, "Yeah, I can." So keep an eye on Jake Golday. And I think they have a chance. They got Jared Bartlett from West Virginia, who West Virginia really wanted to keep as an edge rusher, and they moved him to linebacker. And then Jack Dingle, who's returning from last year. And those guys will probably be the starters. Jonathan Thompson is in the mix. They got a freshman linebacker from D.C. named Simeon Coleman, a true freshman that they think is going to be able to help them this year. So I do think linebacker is going to be very much a strength.
Okay. What is the concern on the defensive side of the ball?
Stopping the run. And some of that has been magnified exponentially over the past weeks because their All-American at nose tackle, Dante Corleone, was diagnosed with blood clots. He has been limited at practice, but he has been practicing. He has
Good.
been out there working with the team. He has not done anything live yet in terms of, team activity, but he is working in individuals. He's working with his position group. And then when they do team, he is over off to the side working with the training staff. They are hopeful he will be back early in the season. But we just found out yesterday, the guy that was supposed to back him up tore his meniscus. So they don't have Corleone at nose. And then Jalen Hunt is the kid's name. He was a transfer from Michigan State that they expected big things out of. And he tore his meniscus in practice last week, had the surgery yesterday, Monday, and he's going to miss the entire season. So they're getting thin in the middle. And the one place you don't want to be thin in the Big 12 right now is at the point of attack. So I worry if Corleone is limited, or if even if he's back and he can only play 30, 40 snaps, are they able to plug that gap and have, the strength to hold up? Because teams in this league right now, if they sense a weakness in the run game, they're going to line up and they're going to come right at you. And I don't blame them. That's the strength of the league right now, I think.
It's amazing how if you're thin at a spot, that's where you're going to get the injuries. It's almost like a football truth. If you've got a weakness, injuries will get to it.
Yep.
Okay, let's ask this. Scott Satterfield's first season in Cincinnati was disappointing. What defines a successful season, and what needs to go right for that to happen?
I think 6-6. I mean, they have a favorable schedule early that should allow them to get out, 4-1 type start, and then it gets rough on the back end. So, get out to a hot start and hope you build some confidence and momentum, and you can get yourself to 6 wins, 7 wins potentially. If you can steal, maybe, they've got Arizona State, they've got Colorado on the road, they've got UCF on the road. So there's games in there that I think they can pick up a couple wins. I think they need to get to a bowl game, to show the progress. Look, this is a team that a couple years ago was in the college football playoff, and last year they were 3-9.
Right.
And I think there was, it was kind of the law of averages. Like Luke Fickell hit on, at the beginning of his tenure in Cincinnati, he hit on so many guys. Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, Brian Cook, that's with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Derek Forrest, that's with the Washington Commanders, a running back named Michael Warren, Desmond Ritter. Like everything, every penny they threw into the pond came back with like a gold bar. That didn't happen so much towards the end of his tenure. And, some of that I think is directly related to COVID hit, and a lot of those guys got to stay an extra year. So then your young guys didn't get on the field. They didn't get the type of development that the group before them got. And then all those guys leave and go to the NFL, and you're dealing with guys that haven't, had that same luxury. So there was a lot to replace. There was a lot to repair on this roster last year. And, that's staggering when you think of college football in this day and age. And last year they had 2 guys that ran 22 miles an hour and only 11 guys that ran 21. In power conference football, you are turtles are passing you on the street, if that's what your speed looks like. So we'll see. But 6 wins, I think, is what they need to get there. I think, Brendan Sorsby has to be the guy that they think that they're getting. And he's still young. He's a redshirt sophomore. But he had 7 starts for Indiana last year. He started in a game they almost beat Penn State. He started in a game they beat Wisconsin. So he's got some positives, but he's only got 7 starts under his belt. So he's not a finished piece of clay yet. But they actually got to shop in the nice aisle. They bought the good clay, they think, in the portal this time.
Well, good. What likely went wrong if they fall short of that bowl effort?
One, they can't stop the run, because even if you think you're going to be good on offense, if the other team can keep it away from you and just play possession football and control the clock, that means, instead of 8 to 10 possessions a game, you're getting 6 or 7. And those are significant differences for a team that's still kind of trying to find itself. So if they can stop the run, I think they'll be okay. If teams are getting 200, 250 yards a game on the ground, I just worry that the offense isn't going to have enough time to match and put up the necessary level of points. So stop the run, and I stop the run even moderately. Like I don't think they're going to be a great run stopping defense, but if they can be okay, I think it's serviceable. If they're bad, I think they might be in a little bit of trouble.
It's going to be difficult. Okay, every schedule has that game that a win could set you on course to big things, and a loss could mean bad things. Is there a linchpin game in the schedule that you see?
There's a couple. I think the one that and I it's dangerous to say this, Tim, because last year they opened up with Eastern Kentucky. They beat the brakes off of Eastern Kentucky, and then they went to Heinz Field or whatever the whatever Pittsburgh calls that place now, and they beat Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, everybody thought, here we go, like 2-0. We got Miami of Ohio coming up next. Like this, we're gonna get this thing on a roll going into the Big 12. And then they lost to Miami, and then things just never. From there, their only other win was Houston, who was the worst team in the league. Cincinnati was the second worst team in the league. So I guess Pitt, but I say it with caution.
Yeah.
Because I if you win the Pitt game, I think they take care of Miami this year. That team was, I would say, good Miami team in the MAC last year. They won the MAC. They had a great defense. They lost most of that defense. If Cincinnati can't go into Oxford and beat Miami this year, fans are going to be really unhappy. But I think that Pitt game or later, I don't know where are you at on WVU?
I don't know. I don't know if last year was fool's gold because the schedule was easier, or if they were legitimate. But you got to say this: even if the schedule was easier, they believe in themselves now. So that makes a dangerous team.
It's a weird team to me because they saved their coach's job. Like they had a rallying cry, right? Everybody last year, every show that talked about West Virginia preseason, the question was not if Neil Brown was going to be fired. The question is, what point in the season is Neil Brown going to be fired? And they rallied. Do they have that rallying cry this year? I wonder. But West Virginia comes to Cincinnati, and I think that could be a game that if they're hinging on 5, 6, 7, if they can get that one, I think that shoots them up a level higher than expected. If they lose that one, I don't think it's devastating, but then you might be in a real war because they go to Kansas State and Iowa State in November. Tim, they're not winning it. They're not winning one of those two games. They're not winning in the cold, in the middle of nowhere in November. It's just not happening. So I think West Virginia is a key one as well, because I think they can win that game, but we'll find out how much progress they've made to that point when they face off against West Virginia at Nippert Stadium.
Okay. 12 weeks into the season, or 12 games into the season, at the end of the regular season, what will be Cincinnati's record?
I think 6-6.
Yeah.
I think that's right about where they end up. If everything breaks right, I can see 7. I don't think they're quite ready for more than 7 yet. But I think there's enough stability that, if they can stay healthy, obviously that's the biggest question in football anymore. Do your top guys stay healthy? And I think they've improved their depth, but not that much. So if they can stay healthy, I think they can get to 6. They have a really good season. I think they can get to 7. Anything beyond that, I think, is a stretch.
The building continues at Cincinnati. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see a little progress. Chad, thank you so much for your insights and bragging about your all-access pass.
Yeah. Well, Tiger says, thanks for having us, Tim.
Yeah, he's always welcome on the show.